When you send a message to someone you're interested in, you're not just tapping out letters on a screen. You're revealing the standards you hold for yourself, the expectations you have for connection, and the level of confidence you carry into every interaction. Most people think attraction is built through mystery, distance, or cleverly crafted lines, but real attraction is built through the energy behind your words, the certainty in your tone, and the unspoken message that says you are someone worth showing up for. When you send a text that carries calm confidence instead of anxious need, he feels the difference immediately, because the energy you send out determines the energy you get back. Every message you send teaches people how to treat you. And when you lead with clarity and self-respect, you become someone who naturally stands out. You don't need flashy words to make someone chase you. You need the grounded conviction that your presence is a privilege, not something they can take for granted. Those 5 words only work because they're backed by the strength of the person sending them, a person who knows that love should feel reciprocal, not exhausting, and that the right connection doesn't require constant proving or performing. The moment you stop texting from fear and start texting from value is the moment everything shifts, because people respond differently to someone who doesn't negotiate their worth. You attract differently when you operate from a place where you no longer fear losing someone, because losing someone is never as dangerous as losing yourself. Most people text in a way that protects their ego rather than protects their heart, and in doing so, they end up overthinking every word, every emoji, every delay in response, forgetting that confidence is communicated in simplicity, not complexity. When you send a message that isn't trying to impress, but simply expresses who you are, it hits differently. It feels effortless, honest, and self-assured. Confidence isn't loud or dramatic. It's calm, warm, and steady. And when a man feels that energy from you, he doesn't feel pressured. He feels inspired to show up. He doesn't chase out of fear of losing you. He chases out of excitement to be part of something real, something healthy, something that elevates him as much as it elevates you. The chase becomes natural because you stop chasing validation and start choosing alignment. And that shift in mindset changes the entire dynamic of how someone sees you. The text you send becomes a doorway, not a trap, inviting him into a connection where effort is mutual and affection is balanced. And when someone feels invited rather than demanded, they respond with genuine desire rather than obligation. The power of your communication has nothing to do with being perfect and everything to do with being intentional, because intention is what creates clarity, and clarity is what creates attraction. When you text someone from a grounded place, you communicate without hidden expectations or emotional pressure, allowing the connection to grow at a pace that feels healthy. You're no longer trying to control the outcome. You're simply expressing your truth, and that truth becomes magnetic because it's rare in a world of mixed signals and emotional games. Men are drawn to women who aren't ruled by anxiety or urgency because that energy tells them she has a full life, a rich inner world, and a sense of self that isn't dictated by someone else's attention. When your texts reflect a life that is already fulfilling, he naturally wants to be part of that world, not because he is needed, but because he is chosen. And being chosen by someone who chooses themselves first is infinitely more attractive than being needed by someone who loses themselves in the process. What makes those 5 words work is that they carry the essence of everything you've already built within yourself: confidence, clarity, calm emotion, and an unshakable sense of worth. You're not using the words to manipulate him, you're using them to express a standard. You're saying, without saying, that you know who you are and you know what you bring, and anyone who wants to be part of your life must show up with intention, effort, and respect. And that energy becomes irresistible because people are always drawn to those who know their value and communicate it effortlessly. Those 5 words have power not because they are clever or manipulative, but because they awaken something natural inside him, the desire to rise, to pursue, to show up with intention. A man doesn't chase because he's confused or insecure. He chases because he feels inspired, challenged, and excited by the standard you're communicating. When your message carries the energy of someone who knows her value, it subtly invites him into a higher level of connection without forcing him, shaming him, or overwhelming him. The words act like a gentle pull, not a push, reminding him that effort is a privilege, not a burden. They tell him that you are open but not waiting, warm but not dependent, interested but not defined by his response. That balance is what triggers pursuit, because it makes him see that you are someone worth moving toward, someone who expects more than breadcrumbs and is unwilling to settle for anything less than effort. When a text carries emotional clarity, it disrupts the patterns he's used to. Patterns of mixed signals, over-attachment, or emotional chaos that so many people bring into dating. Instead, it offers him something refreshing, a woman who communicates with strength, kindness, and certainty. Those 5 words make him lean in because they say, "I'm not here to play games, but I won't chase you either." This is the kind of message that creates an internal shift in him, making him want to be the one who initiates, who follows through, who takes the lead in building the connection. He feels a sense of responsibility to show up, not because he's pressured, but because he genuinely wants to earn your attention. The pursuit becomes natural because you're no longer creating a dynamic where you're trying to convince him of your value. You're creating one where he realizes it on his own. Men love stepping into roles where their effort is seen and appreciated, but they lose motivation when their effort feels unnecessary or taken for granted. Those 5 words strike the perfect balance, giving him space to invest without making him feel like you've already decided the entire relationship for him. They communicate confidence without arrogance, interest without neediness, and boundaries without coldness. When a man receives a message like that, he doesn't feel trapped. He feels inspired to act because you've created a space where he can win with dignity and intention. When a man feels that he can succeed with you, he naturally wants to chase. He naturally wants to deepen the connection. Attraction is not built on pressure, it's built on opportunity, and your message gives him exactly that. There is something deeply attractive about a woman who expects effort but doesn't demand it, who invites connection without clinging to it, who offers warmth without abandoning her own emotional independence. Those 5 words work because they embody all of that. They are simple, but the mindset behind them is powerful. They show him you're not waiting around hoping he chooses you. You are simply opening the door for him to step up if he wants to. And that level of high value communication makes him curious, attentive, and motivated to keep the momentum going. It shifts him from passive to active, from uncertain to intentional, because men chase what feels meaningful, not what feels desperate. And when he senses that you are the kind of woman who values herself enough to communicate with calm certainty, he doesn't hesitate. He prioritizes. You can't text your way into being valued because value isn't something you type. It's something you live, and every message you send is just a reflection of the standards you already hold for yourself. A high value mindset isn't created in the moment you reach for your phone. It's created in the way you treat yourself long before you ever type a word. When you stop trying to convince someone of your importance and start acting like someone whose time and energy matter, everything about the way you communicate changes. You no longer send long paragraphs hoping to prove your worth, nor do you accept inconsistent effort disguised as affection. Instead, you communicate with a steady calm, a sense of balance, and a quiet confidence that says you don't chase anyone who doesn't show up for you. That energy is what makes your presence feel rare, because you are not emotionally available to every person who offers attention. You are selective with your heart. High value behavior is shown in the boundaries you keep, the standards you honor, and the emotional discipline you practice even when your feelings are loud. Most people lose their value not because they are unworthy, but because they abandon their standards too quickly when they want someone to like them. They reply instantly even when busy, they tolerate inconsistencies just to keep the peace, and they overextend themselves in hopes of securing affection. But a high value woman does the opposite. She moves slowly, intentionally, and thoughtfully, allowing people to earn access to deeper parts of her life. She understands that availability is not the same as compatibility, and attention is not the same as effort. Every time she chooses alignment over desperation, she becomes more attractive because people instinctively value what is not easily obtained. When you live with a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and self-respect, the chase doesn't happen because of a single text. It happens because he senses he must bring something meaningful to be part of your world. Men naturally pursue what feels valuable, and value is communicated through your lifestyle, not your words. When he realizes you have a full life, friends, goals, passions, routines that aren't centered around him, he feels both challenged and motivated. He sees that your happiness is not dependent on his attention, and that independence makes him want to earn a place beside you. The chase becomes effortless because your life is attractive on its own. He's not chasing you to inflate his ego. He's chasing you because you represent a life that inspires him to become better. High value behavior isn't about being cold, withholding, or difficult. It's about being emotionally stable enough to communicate your needs without fear and walk away when those needs aren't met. It's about showing affection without abandoning your boundaries, expressing interest without sacrificing your dignity, and welcoming connection without losing your identity. Those 5 words only work because they are supported by a life built on confidence, clarity, and self-worth. A man doesn't chase just because of what you say, he chases because of who you are while you say it. And when your behavior consistently reflects a standard of love that is healthy, balanced, and self-honoring, he realizes that pursuing you isn't a game, it's an opportunity. You stop chasing a man the moment you start chasing the life you were meant to live, because the real magnetism doesn't come from anything you do to impress him. It comes from the energy you build within yourself. When your world becomes rich with purpose, with passions, with routines that nourish your confidence and happiness, your presence shifts in a way that makes people pay attention. You are no longer waiting for someone to validate you, complete you, or reassure you, because you've already begun giving yourself everything you once hoped someone else would provide. That inner stability becomes a force, a quiet glow that makes you unforgettable without trying. When he senses that your fulfillment comes from within, he doesn't pull away. He moves closer, wanting to understand the source of your strength. He chases not because you demanded it, but because you became a woman whose energy is impossible to ignore. A woman who chooses herself radiates a frequency most men aren't used to, because she loves from abundance, not scarcity, and she connects from confidence, not fear. She doesn't send messages out of panic or pressure. She communicates with a calmness that comes from being rooted in her worth. She knows that anyone who wants to be part of her life must match her level of emotional maturity, because she no longer entertains connections that leave her feeling anxious, depleted, or uncertain. Her self-worth becomes the filter through which every interaction is processed, and that filter protects her from slipping into old patterns of chasing, overgiving, or proving. When she stands strong in who she is, she becomes a mirror, showing him the kind of effort required to stand beside her, not just for a moment, but consistently. And in that mirror, he sees that choosing you is choosing growth, alignment, and real partnership. The more you invest in yourself, the more you naturally raise the standards of the relationships you attract, because you can no longer accept connections that don't reflect the love you now give yourself. You begin to see that love is not found in someone else, it's amplified by them. You no longer cling to temporary affection because you know your value. You doesn't diminish when someone fails to recognize it. That inner certainty frees you from trying to force outcomes, because you understand that what is meant for you will not require you to chase, beg, or shrink. Instead, you carry yourself with a quiet assurance, knowing that anyone meant for you will step up willingly, because they see the strength, kindness, and depth you bring into every space you enter. And that assurance becomes the very thing that draws healthy, intentional men toward you. What makes him chase you nonstop is not a text, a tactic, or a strategy. It's the way you choose yourself every single day. It's the way you honor your boundaries, the way you tend to your goals, the way you refuse to abandon your identity for temporary attention. It's the way your confidence doesn't scream, but speaks softly through your actions, your presence, and your emotional stability. When he sees that you are a woman who can love deeply without losing herself, who can give affection without sacrificing her standards, who can welcome someone in without depending on them for her happiness, he feels something rare respect. And from respect comes pursuit, because men chase what they admire, what challenges them, and what inspires them to become better. You are not chased because you're hard to get. You are chased because you're